Hello and welcome to another episode of Cracking Addiction. My name is Philippe Naren and I'm joined as always by Dr. Fergal Armstrong. In the episode of Cracking Addiction today, we're going to talk about opioid use disorder in pregnancy and how to manage this sometimes complex area of medicine. So Fergal, the first question I've got to ask you is, for women with opioid use disorder and ORT, how do you approach the issue of pregnancy and management of pregnancy?
So there are a number of principles that need to be understood, and then we need to drill down into each principle. The first principle is that opioid replacement therapy actually treats opioid use disorder-induced amenorrhea. So opioid replacement therapy is a risk factor for unplanned pregnancy. The second principle is that we should focus our efforts on both the health of the mother and the baby during pregnancy, and we should avoid withdrawal from opioids during that entire time. The third issue is, how do we deal with baby's health after delivery, and then we need to touch on neonatal abstinence. And then the fourth issue is, how do we deal with mum in the puerperal, in the postnatal period after she's delivered, and then for the following 12 weeks, because there are significant changes in body composition during that time, which then affect the way that that mums handle opioid replacement therapy. So really, we need to start from before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and after pregnancy, and the care needs to be tailored to mum and baby during those times.
That's a really good and logical framework to focus on and probably guide us in this episode. So let's start off with the before pregnancy. Say, for example, you either have a woman with diagnosed opioid use disorder and probably on opioid substitution therapy, or you have a woman with undiagnosed opioid use disorder who's fallen pregnant and come to see you. I guess the principles would be to stabilize the woman on some form of opioid substitution therapy to prevent the risks of withdrawal and to engage in treatment. Would that be a good stepping stone in the management of opioid use disorder in pregnancy?
Yeah, absolutely. You can think about opioid use disorder in women, as needing a discussion on the risks of pregnancy, because remember, chaos, the opioid use disorder is associated with chaos, and chaotic lifestyles, especially only in women, of course, cause amenorrhea. So women become functionally infertile as a result of their chaotic lifestyles. Opioid replacement therapy in the context of a service then contributes to the reduction in the chaos of a patient, and therefore then allows or facilitates the return of regular menstruation, which therefore then heralds the onset of normal fertility. So therefore, screening for pregnancy for any new patient, any female patient who's coming to your service for opioid replacement therapy should really be part of the initial screen. And also a discussion on contraception should be part of the treatments that are available for people attending for opioid replacement therapy. And there are some passionate advocates for depot contraception in women of childbearing age who have opioid use disorder, especially in the context of informed consent. And so women need to understand their risks.
That's a very good point to mention. Contraception is a vitally important thing to mention, as is stabilization of a woman in pregnancy on opioid substitution therapy. We know that withdrawal is associated with a lot of complications for the mother and the fetus as well. And we know keeping a woman on opioid substitution therapy, engaged in therapy, leads to long-term better outcomes for both mother and child. What do you say, Fergal, to some patients, and I'm sure you've had patients like this, who ask to come off opioid substitution therapy during pregnancy because they're concerned about risks? Do you have an approach to that at all?
Yeah, so first of all, we have to understand the perspective of the patient. And at the end of the day, the patient in front of you, unless it has the presumption of mental competence and the presumption of medical autonomy, so they are allowed to make their own healthcare decisions. I often find that patients are really unaware of the risks associated with either being on opioid replacement therapy during pregnancy or being off opioid replacement therapy during pregnancy. So really it's an opportunity for an expansive and frank discussion, during which I emphasize the risks of withdrawal in pregnancy and also the risks of being on opioid replacement therapy. So a lot of women don't understand the risks of opioid replacement therapy in the context of pregnancy and opioid use disorder. And what we know is that, yes, both methadone and also to a certain extent buprenorphine, they reduce head circumference in babies and they reduce birth weights in babies. But compared to the head circumference and birth rates, and birth weights rather, of babies who are born from mothers who are experiencing ongoing substance use disorder or heroin use disorder, that reduction is much less that can be attributed to opioid replacement therapy. So basically, opioid replacement therapy is safer than ongoing substance use disorder. That's the first point to make to mums. The second point to make to mums is that there is no evidence of teratogenicity. So by that, I mean there's no evidence that opioid replacement therapy with methadone or buprenorphine causes birth defects more so than background risk, because there's always a background risk to this. The third thing to mention is that withdrawal in pregnancy is really dangerous for baby. It's also dangerous for mum. So we know that in the first trimester, there's a high risk of withdrawal causing early miscarriage. And in the third trimester, there's a high risk of fetal distress and also miscarriage as well as a result of that. Finally, then we need to address the issue that mum may have with regards to neonatal abstinence syndrome. And I've had a few mums who have spoken to me about this. And their concern is that they have to actually reduce the level of the medication that they're on to minimize the risk that they perceive of neonatal abstinence occurring in their child. And then I say to mum at that point, well, actually, we know, or rather, there's no evidence that the risk of neonatal abstinence is dose dependent. So if you're going to be on methadone, you've got a 70 to 80% chance of developing neonatal abstinence syndrome, but lowering the dose of methadone during pregnancy is not going to change that risk. And yes, the risk of neonatal abstinence syndrome is lower when buprenorphine is used. But again, the risk is not dose dependent. So lowering the dose of buprenorphine is not going to change that risk. So once we've had a discussion with mum about all of these issues, then really the safest time to reduce the dose of opioid replacement therapy is actually in the second trimester, and certainly with methadone, 5 milligrams a week reduction could be feasible. But look, anything faster than that, you really are heading into the territory of withdrawal and neonatal distress.
That's a really good summary, Fergal, and I think you've summarized some of the risks as well. And I think all of us would rather have a woman with opioid use disorder stable on opioid substitution therapy than run the risk of going through withdrawal of opioid substitution therapy during pregnancy. And as you've mentioned, in the first trimester, increased risk of uterine contraction and miscarriage, and in third trimester, increased risk of intrauterine growth retardation and a few other complications. So stopping therapy is not as simple or risk-free as possible. And another thing that you've mentioned as well with neonatal abstinence syndrome, everyone's aware of it. There are scoring systems for it. NICUs, neonatal facilities are very well aware of it, and it's a very treatable condition. So it's not something that's outside the realms of being treated, provided it's recognized early. And I usually try and reassure the women that I see that it's a common occurrence, identifying a child with neonatal abstinence syndrome, and it is treatable. So I find a lot of pregnant women carry a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and trying to allay some of that guilt and shame, I find actually helps patients stay on treatment, which is ideally what we want.
Yeah, so for me, moms worry about the risk of neonatal abstinence syndrome, and therefore they think they actually have to come down on their ORT to minimize that risk. And I emphasize the point There's no evidence that the risk of neonatal abstinence syndrome is dose-related, which then brings me on to the next point, that actually, as pregnancy develops, changes in body fluids, body composition, actually mean that sometimes we need to increase the dose of opioid replacement therapy during pregnancy, and or change the way that we dose. So, for example, we know that methadone, one of the main enzymes that metabolizes methadone, is cytochrome P450-3A4. But we know actually that 3A4 is also produced by intestines and also produced by the placenta. So it's not just the liver. So you have this growing placenta which is churning out 3A4. Therefore, you are churning out an enzyme that's actually eating away at your methadone levels. So as pregnancy evolves, the half-life of methadone can actually shorten. So we know that the half-life of methadone in someone who's not pregnant or is approximately anything between 8 to 59 hours, but certainly more than 24 hours, right? So as pregnancy evolves in certain individuals with a high level of CYP3A4 can actually drop down to 8 hours. So that just highlights the point that actually A, the dose may need to go up, or B, the dosing frequency may need to increase. So whereas for someone who's not pregnant, we would use standard daily dosing for methadone, you might actually need to use BD or even TDS dosing for methadone. So it's rare that would happen in BD or TDS dosing, but it's certainly possible. What I think is more common is that the dose does need to go up every day during pregnancy, and so don't be alarmed at this, especially given that the risk of neonatal abstinence syndrome is not dose related. There, I've said it 3 times, which then brings us to the next point of, well, what's the standard dose in pregnancy for methadone? Well, we say that in community dosing of methadone is ranging between 90 to 120. Well, that's the dose range you would expect for pregnancy as well. And certainly there's evidence that anything under 60 is just totally inadequate.
So Fergal, that's a great point to mention. And what this shows is that dosing of opioid substitution therapy in pregnancy is not a static thing. You don't just give the woman a dose or a script and say, see you later. You review the woman frequently, as you would throughout her pregnancy, every few weeks, to see how she's coping, not only with the pregnancy, but with the medications that you've prescribed. And dose adjustments may need to be made to ensure that the opioid use disorder is being treated correctly. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, the key thing is frequent reviews and having an open mind about exactly where the mother is in terms of comfort levels, and to really, I also think we need to hammer home the issue of avoiding withdrawal. Now, to that, your original question, you said to me, what do you do if someone actually wants to come off methadone or buprenorphine in pregnancy? Well, at the end of the day, once the mother, I think it's important to also say that whilst we would encourage mom to consider the risks and the benefits of opioid replacement therapy and the risks of withdrawals in pregnancy, at the end of the day, if mom is absolutely adamant that she is coming off this medication, then we have to legally facilitate that. We cannot compel people, least of all a pregnant woman, to continue therapy that she just does not want to be on. So, there's no role for compulsion in this. So at the end of the day, if they're absolutely determined, well, then you have to do a gradual tapering.
That's an excellent point, Fergal. And I think what we as doctors, as prescribers, also need to be aware of is that there is a lot of shame that women feel with regards to substance use, opioid use disorder, falling pregnant and managing the pregnancy. But also a lot of women I find are worried about the consequences of their substance use and whether or not their children will be removed, whether child protection will be involved in the care of their child as well. So I think as doctors, we have a role to play not only in the medical management, but also providing support, reassurance, advocating for our patients as well. As we know, substance use can be a risk factor for child endangerment, but not everyone who uses substances is a bad parent, or substance use is not a precluder of being a good parent. So it's something that we need to advocate for our patients and reassure them where we can. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. And this opens the door to really the point about how opioid use disorder is not just a disease of a drug and a receptor. Opioid use disorder is a condition that affects people. And women who are pregnant deserve care in a multidisciplinary team. Women who are pregnant who are also suffering from opioid use disorder deserve excellent high standard of care provided by a multidisciplinary team within which there is included expert obstetric care, expert midwifery care, and also expert AOD care. They deserve care that is non-judgmental and culturally sensitive and respectful of their wishes and needs, which then goes back to the point about, how do you actually deal with a woman who has SUD, who's on ORT and wants to come off? Well, the answer is ultimately you have to respect her wishes. One of the key things that I have experienced in my dealings with people who are pregnant with SUD is that they worry that their babies are going to be taken away from them, or that they worry that because they're now pregnant, they're not allowed, they're bad people, they're going to be judged, they're going to be stigmatized, and they're not allowed to access services. And so they run away from services. So really focusing care on the welfare of the growing fetus and providing the wraparound services that are designed to help the fetus and emphasizing that to mum really is a way of engaging mum into services, because the worst thing that could happen is that mum doesn't actually engage in services. And another point to make is that even if mum has weaned off opioid replacement therapy during pregnancy, that does not mean that she is then excluded from AOD expert care during her pregnancy. The engagement has to continue. The psychosocial services have to continue.
So Fergal, that was an excellent summary of the episode, and I think that's a great place to end the episode of Cracking Addiction today. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and bye for now.